Good morning. And thank you all for joining us for this panel. Okay, this is the TV serial program anthology and or limited series. Now, before we get going, I want to tell you a little bit about the Guild. So the LMGI is a nonprofit whose sole reason for existence is to unite location professionals, right? And to promote awareness of our role in the motion picture, television, and commercial and print production industries. So we do that through a variety of educational programs and public relations and marketing efforts, including the LMGI Awards and the Compass Magazine. So the Compass Magazine features amazing photography and articles about, and in many cases written by, working location pros all over the world. I see Stevie in there. Stevie's one of these great writers. And the LMGI members receive this magazine quarterly. So if you join, you'll be receiving that as well. So we are your people. And if you're interested in joining or volunteering, like I do, or putting in an educational or other program together for us or with us, or just learning more about what we do, then you can find us at locationmanagers.org. First off, I wanted to just jump into True Detective. So detectives investigate the mysterious disappearance of 8 men from a research station in Enos, Alaska, in the stark, harsh, frozen expanse of Iceland's tundra, so close to the Arctic Circle that it exists in perpetual darkness for 8 months. The towns of Keflavik and Dalvik were the bones for the eerie, small, close-knit mining town isolated by the sea. And the unsettling blue twilight and frigid darkness reflect a larger emotional ambiance as the narrative takes a gruesome turn. So the long, frigid nights were endured by the actors and crew, but were crucial in creating the haunting and desolate atmosphere central to a story of environmental pollution, missing people, and indigenous justice. The detectives must also confront the darkness they carry in themselves as they dig into the haunted truths that lie buried under the eternal ice. All right, so that's already intense. So starting out, I have here that you have some incredible credits. I'm just going to name a few, but you can go into any more that you might want to harp on. But Thor, I feel like you guys, Thor is the man to know. He is the man with the plan when it comes to Iceland filming. He's done Marvel films, Transformer movies, and he's known for The Northman, Oblivion, The Tomorrow War, Blade Runner 2049, and many, many more, many more. So Thor, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Thor, and I'm from True North, the service company here in Iceland. And like you mentioned, I've done few of those big ones in Iceland in the past. And obviously, True Detective is one of them. And True Detective was kind of different from what we have been used to because we haven't done long series in Iceland, so to speak. Mainly shorter shoots, but this one covered a couple of months. So that was different for us. And maybe what was the most challenge was even though Iceland is cold and dark, which they were after, we had to do night for night, which was quite tough for the crew. And working in such cold environment and remote locations was an extra effort on everyone. So it was a tricky one, but adventurous and a pleasure one to work on.
All right. And Jethro, and how did you get involved? Who brought who on? Was it Thor that snagged you, or did you snag Thor? Or
No, I mean, I was incredibly privileged to be able to collaborate with Thor and all our fantastic team. The designer brought me on board, asked if I'd join them on this journey, and was read the script, knew an awful lot about the legend of Thor, and even though it's a bit parky there at times, come on, Thor, it's not that cold. And yeah, there's a lot of darkness, which we decided to give ourselves a little bit more. it just such fantastic project and such fantastic people to work with. And I think Thor, we had a lot of fun finding locations. I think we stretched ourselves because we had to build a town in this. We're not, you know, Iceland is famed for its landscapes, but we had to build a credible Alaskan town. And boy, I think we all found some amazing locations there that we can all really, you know, we're really proud of, that that we're sitting here now talking to you about it.
Yeah,
because it means that we pulled it off.
you definitely did. And I was very intrigued with the night for night, because seeing, I was wondering what were these working hours like, and obviously the weather conditions, and where did you find this town? So apparently this was Enos. The location in this series is a completely fictional town, but I read that it was based out on the town North Slope Borough, Alaska, that there's actually a town in the northernmost county. What was that like, exploring it? Because it looked like the production team had to build out of some of what was already constructed there and then build upon that. And you had to work with the indigenous production, like producers that were in the area. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I got a bit worried in the beginning when we were kind of facing, okay, we're gonna make a little town in Iceland look like a town in Alaska, and how are we gonna do that? But like Jethro said, with all these great people, the art department, the SFX, and the DOP, and everyone that worked together, just creating the right set that could be believable as an Alaska in Iceland, worked so well in the end. It was unbelievable. Even for our Icelanders, we kind of weren't sure that how that would go. But it ended up to be such a great success, and everyone was talking about it, even the local people. It looks so real. It looks so real, and it did.
It did.
And we mainly worked in two towns for Anis in Iceland. There was in Keflavik, a little town close to the airport, and a little town called Dalvik up in the north part of Iceland, where we obviously had more snow, but we had to make the snow here in the south in Keflavik, but nobody saw the difference, I think.
And what about, speaking of the snow? So there was a huge part in the series where there was a snow blizzard. So how much of that was practical and working with special effects? Like, and did that have anything to do with how you scouted for like the roads or for the different buildings? Because I know that the set for the research facility was built, correct? That was actually built.
Yeah, I mean,
the interior was built.
The interior was built.
Yeah. But snow-wise, we were shooting in November into December here in the south, where we had lack of snow. So obviously we had to make snow there. But when we went up north and partly here in the south, later in January, we got a lot of snow. So I would say majority of all these scenes that happen in blizzard in the elements are for real.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean the SFX, they hardly used any of their material when it came to a location, a remote location, or up in the north. It was all for real, and we basically got caught in a snow blizzard in the town, and we weren't sure if we would get the people or the crew out in the morning. So we kind of had to monitor the weather stations every hour to make sure we wouldn't be blocked in this little village with only 20 hotel rooms. So it was tough, it was tricky, but like I said, majority of the snow scenes were for real.
And when it came to like the ice, like when the ice lakes, the caves, the ice caves, what were the logistics like for safety wise? Like you just mentioned, the crew having a difficulty getting in and out or constantly watching the weather. What were the safety logistics like? What kind of things did you have in place for like issues like plows, snow plows to clear the roads on standby? And when it comes to the ice, dealing with the ice lakes and avalanches and people getting caved in, what were the safety concerns?
Well, obviously there were safety concerns, not only working out on an ice lake, also just getting from town to the location and back. And we were, like I said, we were shooting there through the night, and the local administrator were only plowing the road during the day into the night. So we had to have our own plans and own snow plows kind of standing by if something would happen during the night. So there were all kinds of safety plans that we had in place, but firstly, we never had to kind of get the local rescue team coming in to safety or something like that. But like I said, we had to monitor all vehicles coming in, monitor all vehicles getting out, because we were driving on set in sometimes snow blizzard and no visibility. And so that we had to monitor every vehicle and every crew member going out on the ice.
Okay, that's interesting. And Jethro, as far as your position and your role on this project, what would you say was the most rewarding experience working on True Detective?
I mean, there's too much. I mean, Thor, the team, Aina, Robert, Anna, Bjork, the guy, like world class. I mean, literally world class. Iceland itself, it's in your heart. It's an amazing, amazing country. Brings a tear to my eye thinking about it, Phil. No, I mean, there's an energy there that I think, you know, Thor probably thinks I'm off my head saying this, but you can see it coming out the ground. You can see that natural energy, and there's a wealth of locations. A wealth. I mean, we've barely touched the surface with what people have seen over the years. I think there's so much there for us, and that energy that's within the land there, I think that translates to the people, and it's just an amazing, amazing place. If anyone gets the chance to go and spend 6 months at night there at minus 20 degrees, I heartily recommend it.
Yeah, that's another thing that's interesting.
Yeah.
We have a question as well about how do you deal with practical things in this environment, like the portable restrooms and them freezing?
Are you going to take this? Should I do it or?
I mean, you know, who doesn't love talking about the portable restroom for?
Whose job was it to thaw out the toilets?
No. I mean, it's true. I mean, you need to have modified equipment for Arctic environment. So I'm not going to go into the details, but I mean, but we have kind of our own system here. We have modified trucks to get into the snow, and obviously as well portable restrooms that are towed on a big wagons that can get through the snow and the ice and all that, and so yeah, we managed to keep everything running, but like Jethro said, even though it's cold in Iceland, and that was probably one of the reasons why they brought this project to Iceland versus shooting it in Alaska. It's not extremely cold here. So it's workable, even though it's obviously cold when the winds picks up and etc. But like I said, a lot of our facilities are modified for such conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. You've got a phenomenal setup there. It keeps everything on the road. It keeps us safe. It keeps people comfortable. It's wild. You know, there's some stuff that you see, some vehicles that you just go, well, fair enough. Of course, you've got that. And we were very lucky to have the resources to have that at our disposal. You know, both for people's welfare and for their safety.
Can you guys see the photos? Wow. It's like,
and I have to, when I see the photos, I have to add to this that even though we were shooting night for night many days, we were always obviously shooting early morning, late into the night, so we got the chance to see the Northern Lights like there, and just the magical light that you get in the wintertime. So it was not just dark all the time. We obviously shot the magical hours as well.
That was a perk of it. And it's always interesting when it comes to cinematic lighting, how when you need to shoot night, you still need lights to make it dark. Was that the case here, where even though you needed night for night, you still had to bring on large lights or additional lights?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a helicopter scene in the middle of the night, and so it was, yeah.
There's the bodies.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert,
everything.
anybody.
Oh, everything is as we normally do. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm sure it's the same with, all of the teams and everybody here. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. It doesn't matter where you're going. The processes are the same, and it's our job to not just find the locations, but set up the logistics for these things. And there's an art and there's a lot of enjoyment to be had from that, particularly when you sort of then sit back and find yourselves in a steam company here today.
Like, did you get a snowmobile? Is that you on the back of the snowmobile? Is that how
No,
you got from
that's a
each?
sore subject. That's a rather sore subject, isn't it, Thor? I'm not allowed on. But then he saw me drive, so that's fair enough.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, we had snowmobiles, we had snowcats and super jeeps and all the vehicles you need in such terrain and such conditions.
Good to go. Well, thank you for your time. Look at these. These are awesome. And thank you for sharing as well. And I'm actually honored to be able to have you on this panel and speak with you, because just like Jethro was saying, you are like the mighty Thor, and you will drink with Odin in the halls of Valhalla.
Oh yeah.
So amazing
Or he
work,
does.
guys. Any more questions? Let's see. Let's go here. How long was the scouting period?
That was
April 4.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It was quite quick, actually, wasn't it? It was quick.
Because you pretty much have like a
it started off in
catalog,
April.
right? It's like that place, and enough to kind of like hit certain regions and go, this is what's needed, what's expected, or the team already brought something towards you, to you, was like, this is exactly what we need.
And when we started, we had kind of a different plan, only shooting in the north, and then that changed, and we had to basically scout a lot during the prep season, finding new locations in the south. So it was kind of back and forward. So I would kind of say we were almost scouting all the time.
Constantly,
yeah. It's
and
constant.
we found new things. We found things, because it depends what you're looking for always. And, once you had to move down south, we sort of came up with things that we hadn't seen. Like, one of our assistants, Patrick, amazingly found, the school that we, had one of the scenes in, and it was like a facsimile of an American high school. I mean, it's phenomenal. But it's just testing yourself, isn't it? It's always look beyond what you already know.
Mm-hmm. And was it always meant to be Iceland, or were other areas considered?
They weren't as good. No, I think there was. I think, as we've said, Alaska. I mean, that's -40. I think it's. I mean, that I suspect is a little bit more than parky or a bit chilly, and quite brutal. And there were other landscape. There were other continents looked at, but Iceland, as I've said already, it's world class. Not just location teams, but the whole shooting party. The whole of the crew, you could put them. I think you could put them anywhere in the world, and they would deliver.
Nice. And last but not least, some of the viewers wanted to know if you guys were LMGI members, and
we are.
So thank you, and congratulations once again on your nominations. And hang out with the rest of us while we move on. We're gonna slide on over and talk to Fabio for Ripley. Okay. Buongiorno. And just a little quick description, you guys, for anyone who's not familiar with Ripley. In this psychological neo-noir thriller, a small-time con artist devises a sinister scheme to steal the life, money, and identity of a trust fund expat living in the late 1950s Italy. The story takes Ripley from Manhattan to Italy, where he spends time in Trani, Rome, Naples, San Remo, Palermo, and Venice. The steep steps and winding alleys of the picturesque Atrani create disorienting spatial effects that reflect Ripley's mental state. A dead body found by the ancient Roman aqueduct intensifies this cat and mouse game with the police as his deceit leads to desperation and murder. The Amalfi Coast Road, the curves overlooking the sea, a timeless grand villa in Capri, the historic alleys of Rome, and the irreplicable, there we go, charm of Naples are filmed in black and white with unique cinematic angles that create an awe-inspiring visual experience that heightens the tension. Okay, Ripley was amazing to watch, beautiful, sharp, just picturesque, and it's obviously a remake of the original, like from the 1999 film. And did you have anything to do with that one, the original, or were
No,
you?
I didn't actually. Giuseppe was part of it, and
Giuseppe did though.
it was Giuseppe's first movie ever. He
That's
was
amazing.
working as a production PA. His first
That's
movie in
crazy,
1999.
right?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a
Full
coincidence
circle.
for him. Yeah, whole circle after more than 20 years, I'd say. I mean, exactly 20 years for when we started. As I was saying before, we started in 2019.
Wow.
And then we had to stop for the pandemic.
The
We went
pandemic.
back at the end of the 2020, and this incredible and endless journey started. I had to do a little preamble. I'm sorry about that, but I really feel the need to say that I'm so sorry that Robin Melville is not here. Being him the supervising location manager, it was the biggest and huge part of the job, and he did an incredible job handling a show where we shot 9 months straight in 4 different regions and 6 different cities. He did an incredible job, really incredible. So I'm so sorry, and he is so sorry that he couldn't make it. And also, I'm sorry Giuseppe is not here. That was another huge part of the show. This is the first thing that I want to say. The second thing is it took the work of like a team spread around Italy of about, I don't know, 50 people in the location department. We had a team in every single city, and they were all amazing. So the result of the job is the combination of an incredible team in 6 different towns and 4 different regions, an incredible production, an incredible crew. And I think that what you see on the screen is really, truly the product of the amazing job that every single person did on the show. And to me, it's very important to say it.
Giuseppe, buongiorno, welcome. You couldn't
Buongiorno.
Yay, you made it.
thank you.
Fabio was just singing your praises. Welcome. So we have Giuseppe
Thank
here,
you.
and he's also from this amazing team with credits. Like we just talked about how Full Circle Moment, he was actually on the production of the 1999 film with Matt Damon. So Full Circle coming back to work as locations, and he's worked on Spectre. But I also wanted to give props to Fabio because he did Equalizer 3 and Jack Ryan, the Italy location. So Fabio is already in his own rights as well. Amazing work and track record there because Equalizer 3 was on point. But Giuseppe, welcome. So wanted to you can introduce yourself and just give us a quick rundown on your experience on and how amazing this Full Circle Moment was for you to come back to the series. And we know it was a long road starting and stopping the pandemic.
But when I start this job, I went in Ischia Island because the old talent Mr. Ripley was shot there. And I spent 5 months in Ischia Island. And after that, a lot of location Steve Zillian selected, he told me, okay, but there are other places where we can shoot this movie. Okay, maybe in Amalfi Coast. Okay, go there. And after the field scouting with Fabio in Amalfi Coast, Steve Zillian said, okay, this is the place. And we restart again all the location. We looking for the new location in Amalfi Coast. And he selected a very small country, the smallest village in Italy, only 600 people. And when we went with the crew was 300 people.
Mm.
So we we changed the demographic of the village, and it was very difficult with the pandemic period for the distance. But Atrani is a very, very, very small village, and all people, the house are one in the top of the other, and there is just a small square. So it was a big job in a small place, and but it was a fantastic experience.
And what about the challenges of it being a period piece, right? So it was set in the 50s. So when it comes to working with a period piece such as this, somewhere in Italy, was that very, would you say, I wouldn't think it would be as difficult. I feel like Italy offers such classical and such older, architectural, so it's not as difficult, I feel like, whereas in the States, we have a lot of modernization going on, a lot of updates, renovation. So how difficult was it to scout for the period aspect that was necessary?
Scouting was not so difficult because, exactly as you say, Italy offers a lot of stuff in terms of architecture that is already there. In the central Rome, you had the building from the 1600, from the 1700, same as Palermo or Venice or wherever you go. So the scout part was just amazing and just very, very, very long, because Steve wanted to see like everything was available. But the difficult is then to manage the location, to work on the location, to make it work as the 1959, because the building are correct. The streets are correct, the walls are correct, but then you have all the modernity stuff around. And so everywhere you go, you have to work in transforming everything and to let the art department and set dressing give them the ability to work every single detail to make it look as you then see in the show. And in my opinion, I love David Groffman as a production designer. Alessandra Quelsola as a decorator, in my opinion, is a genius, and they did a great job. But there is a huge location work done by all of us all around Italy to make it work as in 1959. Because, as you know, wherever you look, you find something that you have to change, to work. A lot of paint. We had like 30 painters around. I mean, the art department was like, 100 people working at the same time in 6, 8, 10 different locations. So that was really difficult to handle.
And one thing I was curious about, like they had the villa, the main villa, when Ripley was walking up those stairs and going, when it comes to logistics, as far as like having, how you get the neighbors on board, or you get the community to help hold crew members or hold cast members. What was it like for logistics dealing with all those stairs and or just that villa at all, that main villa space? What was it like setting that up and preparing it for the production to come in and do what they needed to do? And how much involvement was it dealing with the locals in that?
But in Atrani village, I made less or more 300 agreement with the local people. The local people are 600 people, so every family,
everybody in the town got a deal. You get a deal.
Yeah. And now there is a lot of American tourists and English tourists to see the place where we shoot. So I think we changed the economy.
You turned it into wow. That's awesome. What about Fabio? I know this is for Ripley, but feel like was that a similar experience when you did Equalizer 3? Because that was like a similar situation where it was very contained and
No, it was much more simple. Yeah. No. In my career, what it did remind to me was the Danny Boyle show Trust, when we shot all in the center of Rome, and it was 1970. So that kind of and also us, we had to colonize entire neighborhood. Like again, in Rome was kind of hard because it's a huge town. So and for the way they decided to shoot, every time it was like you had to recreate kind of the stage, but in town. So it was really sometimes at night you could feel you could have the feeling to be really on the stage because everything was locked, everything was under control, and it was like me myself was really, we did this because you look around and you see a neighbor in the center of Rome, and it feels like you are at Cinecittà, at Pinewood Studios, or in some. So yeah.
And before I wrap it up on you guys too, I want to go back to Giuseppe real quick. But how was this experience different from working on the original Ripley the first time you worked on the actual film? Now coming back to it in this series.
But 20 years later, the difference was the filming and the digital, and in the Talent of Mr. Ripley, I was a production secretary, so my experience was just on the set. I think Steve Zillian is a director. He won control. He won't check everything. Every week, Fabio and me will send a calendar where we go, what's happened, at what time we meet something. Is a general. It's a general. It's a fantastic man, but is more cervellotico. Fabio, aiutami.
I don't know what to say. It's really focused on what it is. It's like a kind of obsessed on every single details. He wants to know everything. He wants to study everything. And then, in my opinion, it's a nice thing because then you see the result and you see how everything is perfect. And it's perfect because he wanted to be perfect.
Yeah, he's very serious about his vision and attention to detail. Well, wonderful job. Congratulations on your nominations, as well as the Emmy noms for both True Detective as well as Ripley. You guys, awesome jobs. Emmy noms and nominations for your positions.
Thank you.
Great job. Okay, now let's see. We're going to head over to, let me see, we have Feud, Capote versus the Swans. We have Mr. Christopher Britton in the house. So set in the 1950s to the 70s, this period piece dramatizes the fallout between Truman Capote and his high society circle of New York friends, the Swans, whom he betrays by using their secrets as material for his unfinished novel. Capote's iconic 1966 black and white ball is recreated at both Manhattan's Plaza Hotel and the Grand Beaux Arts, inspired Lamar House, sorry. A perfect match for the Paley's Long Island estate was found in Locust Valley and a recently closed Brooks Brothers department store, played for Bonwit Teller. So transporting our ladies on a period appropriate wooden elevator up 2 floors for high-end shopping. Filmed mostly in the greater New York area, with a short stop in Los Angeles, the locations lend authenticity and depth to this true life story of immense wealth, strict social codes, and unforgivable betrayal. All right. So I think this is another one of those installments in Ryan Murphy's whole biopic mini series, going on. And we have Christopher Britton, and he is an LMGI member who's also known for Dead Ringers, and he did some scouting for Homeland. Welcome, Chris. How did you become part of this wonderful situation with Ryan Murphy?
Sure. So hello, everybody from New York. Um, so I actually came on with the production designer, Mark Ricker, before there was even a line producer attached. I know we often joke like that we come on so early, there's no time card. We come on so early, there's no production office. We didn't really know who was going to be supervising production. But what we did have was a biography, and we just delved deep into the research on who all of these characters were. So my relationship was with the production designer, Mark, and New York is a very small community. So thankfully, a lot of other Ryan Murphy Productions players came into it. But we started scouting, I think, at least 6 months in advance. And the scouting work that we did was not just for filming locations, but also for research and reference. So there were locations that would not allow filming, but were true to the characters' lives that we would have to just even negotiate access to scout with photos and the designer so that we could find recreations, because a lot of these very wealthy women and Truman himself, there's not as much documentation reference as you would hope. So our work before the location scouting began was really rooted with Mark and in finding out what we were even trying to look for. So
were you even familiar with Truman Capote and his whole, scandal? Were you familiar with that at all before Takes Two?
I know I look young, but I'm not that. I saw Truman on TikTok. I was a huge fan of his. I mean, I even have, nobody else brought props, but like I have, my grandmother had a copy of In Cold Blood on her bookshelf. And I read this back when the Philip Seymour Hoffman film came out. So I was always very interested in Truman. And, there's been many movies and TV show adaptations, focusing on different parts of his life. And ours was centered more on the betrayal aspect of his article that he wrote for Esquire, and what it meant for him to have this falling out that led to, the last few weeks of his life. So I did learn a lot more about Truman. And I think one of the joys of working on a biopic in the actual city where everything took place is that you're just meeting people nonstop who knew these women and knew Truman, and you're just hearing stories from them. So I feel like I did, NDA aside, learn a lot.
and on that note, what were some of the actual locations that were from that historical past that you used? Can you go into some more of those actual?
So I think the first one that comes to mind is the United Nations Plaza. It's the apartment building that's right next door to the United Nations, which is like a very, delicate location in the city of New York. And they had a strict no filming policy. I mean, I'm sure there's probably been some exceptions, but at least when we talked to them, we really had to sell the aspect of, this is a special project that has a purpose for coming here and is trying to tell the story of this building and of this icon who lived there. So we actually got to meet the woman who lived in Truman's apartment and became close with her and spent a lot of time in her apartment, just getting a sense of it. We did eventually build that particular apartment on the stage, but we did also film interior, exterior, lobby work, elevator work. And as everyone does, we scouted for alternatives, but it was just such a specific spot. So that was one that I think was definitely great to work with. And then with the Plaza Hotel, I know that also is something that everybody knows, but we had to film for 5 days there and prep for a week and wrap for a week. So to take over the Plaza for that amount of time, we were going to contract about 4 or 5 months in advance and just kind of put that on our calendar. And the Plaza, really appreciates the black and white ball. It's important to them too. So they were heavily involved in the script clearances and the filming. They just wanted to make sure that we were doing justice to what this story was. We filmed in a lot of the characters' real apartments. We filmed, we didn't get to film in this location that you mentioned called Kaluna Farms because it actually caught fire in the 90s. But a nice quick anecdote about that is in our scouting for alternatives, we found a location my team that we thought was perfect. It even had the same sofas, like everything about it felt right. And when I went with the designer, we learned that it was the same architectural firm. It was a Gillette and Walker, I believe, who had designed that house. So it's always nice in scouting when you're going off of research notes, your gut to know that like this was the right stand-in for something that doesn't exist anymore.
I know, that's awesome. And as far as like having issues with, because it is a period piece with these locations and the direction that you were getting from production designer and the director, how difficult was it to get some of these locations to allow, for you to make these changes, or were there even any extreme changes? I know when you're doing exterior, I've worked on a few period where we had to chop telephone poles down, change a lot of things. And how difficult was that? Or did you have any obstacles dealing with that at any of these locations?
We had an incredible amount of support from the city, who would help us with all of these requests. In New York, it's difficult because you have to get permission for almost anything you do. And a lot of times, if you want to film somewhere, you talk with your producers and your team and say, well, what do we have to do? Like, do we have to come in at 1 a.m.? Do we have to, have meetings with the community board? Do we have to pay the entire block of stores for that? So I think, another thing that was really exciting about this was Gus Van Sant was our director, and he's such a legend when it comes to film. And, it was a story of compression and expansion. So a lot of locations were very like small with, all the molding and the gilded details. But then we were shutting down 42nd Street on a weeknight just so that we could have period taxis, and show the scope when we could. So I think that was also important in people believing this was a period piece. I hope that as being part of this today, like you couldn't feel that edge of frame as much and you really lost yourself in the scenes.
It was very busy. What type of, how large of a team did you have to accomplish this?
Sure. So I was location manager. I had 4 assistant location managers. I had 3 staff scouts, and then probably about 6 location PAs and assistants working together on this. In New York, we have a parking department too. So I really have to applaud them as well, because we all know that if you can have the most beautiful street in New York City, but if those cars don't clear, all of a sudden you're talking about how are we going to make them clear, obviously, but I really am grateful for the entire team, because as everybody in this Zoom call knows, our job is so diverse, from, the aesthetic to the logistics and the reality of it. So there were some people on my team who were voracious with their scouting and their vision. And there were people working with them that were just as hungry to bring it to fruition and convince people and make sure, because the hair was important, the makeup, the wardrobe, like there are so many aspects of this world. And in terms of, because we did talk about bathrooms, but in terms of support spaces, when you have a property that has, 15 hair, 15 makeup, we need, 6 different changing rooms set up at 4 a.m. So I think it was important for us all to feel important and inspired together. And it's nice to talk about it at the end of it, because I'm grateful.
I know, right? Well, amazing job. It looks great. So, Christopher, what would you say? We all learn something, right, from every project we work on and we move forward. What would you say was probably the biggest lesson, or newest lesson that you're taking from this project that you would take to the next period project? Did you learn anything new?
I think it's important to feel passionate about the projects you choose, because they will all be demanding and they will all ask a lot of you. But as long as it feels like it's worth that time of your life and that you are excited about it, it'll always give you a little bit extra push. And I think that it is also appreciated when you get positive feedback and you feel like you're connected to the filmmakers.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time. So in the last 10 minutes of our hour, I'd like to open it up to anyone else who would have any other questions.
So it seemed like there was theme of stairs and stairwells running through the film, and also the whole idea of being in black and white, right? So were you doing any of that scouting in black and white? And am I just making it up that there was that theme, or was that just the natural landscape?
Actually, the black and white was something that Steve had to fight for a lot, because in the beginning the showtime wasn't. They didn't agree to shoot the show in black and white. They thought it was too risky. That could be too heavy to watch and stuff like that. But yes, during the scout, to basically, yeah, the DOP Robert Eswit had a spatial camera and a spatial lens that wanted since the beginning show to Steve what the movie was going to look like. So they thought about that. In terms of scout or location, you know, again, as you were saying before, everything is so old and ancient that it's very easy to imagine that kind of stuff in black and white. So it was more Steve and Robert Elswit thing to think the show in black and white since the beginning. It's kind of Steve knew since the beginning that he was going to win this fight. So yeah, they thought everything, and Robert had this amazing camera. Every time he took a shot of everything, it was like a Fellini movie. Right. It was incredible. I mean, really incredible. Even sometimes he used to shot like a waiter serving a coffee in a bar while we were scouting, and you look at the picture and you say, "How do you do it?"
Right.
And so.
It's amazing, that magic.
Oh, Thor and Jethro. I'm sorry, I keep coming back to you guys. You guys hardcore, but were there any issues? Like, was there any accidents that happened? I'm not trying to bring up any negative, but were there any type of like accidents that probably occurred on the lake, on the ice lake, stuff, equipment falling through? You know, was there any scares like that at all? Or was it all smooth sailing?
Nothing serious. There were a few people that did fall on the ice. Unfortunately, it was one of our local people, but nothing serious. But speaking of that, it's. I mean, you have to wear crampons. You have to have a head torch. You have to follow the instructions, and so to speak. I can tell you just a quick story. There was one night we got water on the ice, and then it did freeze over. So there was a layer of unfrozen ice on the top. So we got this crane out on the ice, and it started to go through the top layer, and everyone freaked out. We had checked it out, and we knew there was no danger. The base of the ice was still safe enough, and everyone freaked out that everything was collapsing. And we basically had to show the crew, okay, this is how we measure the ice. This is the thickness of the ice. So which is important as well. So people start to trust you and are comfortable working in such an environment and such a location. So we got into some not issues, but moments where we kind of had to stop things and say, hey, listen, this is how it's done. It is safe. So just so people didn't freak out, but nothing serious.
Okay, good. No frostbite. Everybody's good. Okay, I think that's it for our panel. I want to thank you guys again for your time, especially those in another time zone. Thor, Jethro, Chris, Giuseppe, and Fabio. Thank you so much. Congratulations for your hard work. Excited to see who's gonna win and take it all at the awards.
Thanks, Bakita. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.